service delivery money still misused,
not following the rules and the processes.
as district authorities take over from JDP BPCs. And Statistical Office partners churches for awareness on National ID project.
This is National Emtv News with Tokana Hasavi.
A very good evening to you and welcome to Tuesday's news. Thanks for joining us. Money allocated to improve service delivery in the districts continues to be misused. This abuse of public funds will undermine the impact of PNG's national budget. Director of the PNG Institute of National Affairs, Paul Barker, made these comments in reference to the sentencing of Komomagarima MP Francis Potape. Potape was sentenced yesterday to serve 2 years, 6 months in prison for misusing money allocated to the district for service delivery projects.
The DSIP is a critical source of funding for districts. In 2008, the government decided to use this to revive essential government services. Initially, each district received 2 million kina. Today, it has increased to 10 million kina. While some districts have been able to use this funding for the benefit of the people, others are still struggling with accountability of these funds.
And a recent audit that was undertaken by the Auditor Generals with support from the Planning Department highlighted the extensive misuse of these funds. The poor application, sometimes it would be deemed to be corruption, sometimes it's just not following the rules and the processes.
The Finance Minister's first order of business for 2015 was a strong warning for government officials and members of parliament to properly acquit public funds.
The last 2 years, 1.5 billion each. Total of 3 billion kina has been shifted from Port Moresby into districts and provinces. Whilst I have called to the national departments, my first port of call really will be to the province and districts.
Baka and others agree that an increase in social accountability and auditing will ensure that a lot of these funds are properly managed. The Consultative Implementation and Monitoring Council has been in the business of educating Papua New Guineans on the amount of government money that is allocated to each district.
The key concern at the rural level, in the communities and in the districts, was lack of information, basically important information on the budget, how government plans its money and how it spends money.
There are some provinces that have set up community monitoring groups to keep an eye on the way public funds are used in their provinces.
And they have also been holding some of their local leaders to task. They have been asking the questions.
In Daru, we have a DACOM Watch group, which was set up already, and they have done some work in terms of abuse on the provincial government grants and other DSIP. And
Sarah Aupong, National Emtv News.
District development authorities have now replaced the Joint District Planning and Budget Priorities Committee. Although the functions are the same, district development authorities have added responsibilities. As corporate entities, DDAs are required to produce annual reports.
As of January 1st, 2015, district development authorities are now effective. Previously, the Joint District Planning and Budget Priorities Committee performed administrative functions only. However, now as corporate entities, district development authorities have added responsibilities.
It can own machines, it can employ people, it can sue and be sued, it can own properties and so forth. So it's created from an ordinary administrative committee to a body corporate. That's one. Second big difference is that all public servants in the district, all public servants, belong provincial administration, plus all teachers and some national public servants. All kita by responsible on DA. DA now has become the CEO of the DDA.
Each DDAs will receive 15 million kina through the Open Members District Support Grants. With so much money pumped into the districts, the district development authorities are now required to produce an annual report, and the CEO has the power to refer those suspected of misusing funds to the fraud squad.
BP and BBC was responsible for budgeting and planning. Na Burki money go down planning. Now they have the added responsibility. That area responsibility is construction and maintenance of infrastructure. So we're carrying them from just budgeting and planning to actual construction works and carrying out work as well.
Members of the DDA board comprise the Open MP as Chief Executive Officer, followed by LLG presidents and 3 other members of the district. Of the 3, 1 must be a female. However, one thing that is for sure, under the new arrangement, all district development meetings will be held only in the districts. Bridget Komatep, National Emtv News.
The National Statistical Office has partnered with the Papua New Guinea Council of Churches to improve awareness on the National Identification Project. A memorandum of understanding was signed between the 2 bodies today. The project is expected to roll out next month, starting with Yalibupangia in the Southern Highlands province.
Churches have been identified as an important stakeholder for the implementation of the National Identification Project. The signing of an MOU with project controllers NSO will see churches play an active role in carrying out awareness before the actual rollout begins next month. National Planning and Monitoring Minister Charles Abel is keen to see the project begin. He encouraged churches to clear any doubts that people may have surrounding the project. The project is crucial for citizenship identification, which is useful during national events such as elections.
We need to engage with as many of our partners as possible to make that awareness side of it better. But we also want the churches to understand as well what it's about. So we need to properly explain to you and give you all the information so that you also know, and then we're asking you to help us to conduct that awareness.
In total, the national government has injected 231.8 million kina into the project. The government will meet 70.8 million kina, while a loan of 161 million kina from the Exim Bank of China will be for supply of equipment and contractors. Mickey Cavera, National Emtv News.
Controller of the State of Emergency on Electricity Services, retired Captain Tom Ur, says customers in Port Moresby are responding well to the SOE. Over 1 million kina has been recouped at the Gordon's call centre in the nation's capital, with 35 to 40 customers visiting per day. Many more customers whose names were published on January 15 in the newspapers are turning up to settle their long outstanding bills.
According to the SOE controller, Captain Tom Ur, about 95% of the customers who turned up at the PNG Power call center at Gordon's reported having done illegal meter bypassing or tampering on EasyPay meters and stealing of power for years. Those customers were pardoned and advised to follow correct processes to connect power to their homes and pay for the services. The statement by Captain Tom Ur also revealed that some PNG Power Limited staff members have reported illegal connections at their homes, and like other customers, they are now paying their outstanding power bills. On the other hand, there are some customers who followed process in applying for new connections long before the state of emergency. These customers turned up at the call center and asked if the state of emergency could quicken the process of their applications and connect them to electricity supply. Delhi Bagu, National Emtv News.
The hinterland of Boana in the Nawaeb electorate of Morobe province is seeing new roads being built into the villages. Poor road access has denied delivery of basic services for the people for many years. MTV's Sylvester Gawi takes a look at the road challenges of the Nawaeb people.
Nabak and Wine are some of the most challenging areas in the Nawaeb district. The landlocked areas within the Sarawagat mountain range are impassable on land, and it takes 3 to 4 days to travel to the Boana station. Access to basic services like aid posts and schools have been made difficult with no road access.
Donkey. Namipla walk up or at work, man, Mary is a mamas for 10 years, 20 years. Now,
the Nawaeb district is known for its rich organic coffee and other cash crops. Many organic coffee bags have been left to rot in the village because of transport and road difficulties. In the last 2 years, the district's focus has been on building infrastructures which can support its agriculture and economic sectors.
You know planting coffee, you start planting coffee. You know planting ananas, you must plant pineapple now.
Over the weekend, new roads were opened in the Bohana area. This came as a relief for many people who have struggled over time to bring their coffee bags and vegetables to the market.
Plan 1,000 man meri de finish ola pula punol tumbuna de finish santro lukim tasol service no come up.
The district has set aside 5 million kina of its DSIP funds into building roads that will connect Wine Arab to Nabak and Labuta. Nawai's road problems are the same faced in other districts in Morobe province. Local MP Gisuat Senewin is optimistic roads and bridges can be built to connect the district to Leh City. Sylvester Gawi, National MTV News, Leh.
News about part of Wewak Market being subleased to an Asian company to build a modern company has not gone down well with certain residents of Wewak Town. Among those who are against the idea is former Managing Director for Fisheries, Sylvester Pokajam, who was instrumental in negotiating a deal with the Japanese aid agencies, JICA, to construct the Wewak Market. The large unoccupied area between the town police station and town market has been subleased by the Wewak Town Commission to an Asian company to build a supermarket. He was concerned that if the deal proceeds, then other projects associated with JICA-funded construction, such as ice making and jetty facilities, may be halted.
People of DSIP do not like to see such development being put in a public place. The area that is now being vacant is for the car park and for the easy access of the people of DSIP, especially people in the villages, from the coast, from the inland, from the river, from the island. They come in to do their marketing every day at easy access, walking around, putting the car park there, and then they go home easily. But now we've seen a new development. This is not in the interest of the people of Wewak and the DSIP province.
You mayor, you must think good. Now, walking right production below you, location Chinese come inside. Long Sarabim is market, Nama long town market, na police station.
The job of reopening rundown rural airstrips in remote Papua New Guinea must be taken up by local members of parliament. Since the government's move to bring services into each electorate, Minister responsible for civil aviation, David Stevens, says MPs must come forward if they want to rebuild rural airstrips in their electorates.
It has been years, if not decades, since most of the rural airstrips in Papua New Guinea were last used. Most of them have completely shut down, while others are operational, but deteriorating fast. In 2013, Civil Aviation Minister David Stevens told ABC Radio that this government is committed to rebuilding the rural airstrips in the country. For provinces like Sandown and Morobe, where most villages are cut off from the main townships, rural air service is the only point of entry for villages. In 2012, when the concept of rural air services was discussed, it was found that most rural airstrips in PNG were built without proper safety checks. This prompted the civil aviation industry through the Rural Air Service Agency Authority to consider safety when rebuilding or reopening airstrips. But there are many challenges for rebuilding rural airstrips, and Stevens said the pass must come from governing MPs. Factors like building materials, fuel and transportation costs must be met before an airstrip can be opened. And the government will be partnering with local MPs through a public-private partnership to ensure rural air services are delivered. Government members, including members of Gulf and Western provinces, have come forward to rebuild or reopen the airstrips in their provinces to ensure that basic services reach their people. Tekla Gunga, National MTV News.
You're watching National MTV News tonight. Among stories after the break, Education Department to roll out standard-based education this year. Thanks for your company and welcome back to the news. The standard-based education curriculum will be rolled out to schools throughout the country starting this year. Minister for Education Nick Kuman said the reform is good for the country if we want to produce students that will become more competitive in the global arena. One of the standout features of the standard-based education is that English will be the language of instruction.
The standard-based education will be rolled out in starting 2015.
Education Minister Nick Kuman said that the standard-based education will be rolled out this year throughout PNG and will be implemented over a 4-year period. This year will see standard-based education rolled out to Prep, Elementary 1 and Elementary 2. In 2016 to grades 3 through to 6. In 2017, standard-based education will be rolled out to grades 7 through to 9. And in 2018 to grades 10 through to 12. What this means is that the systems of instruction, assessment, grading and academic reporting will be based on students demonstrating understanding of the knowledge and skills they are expected to learn as they progress through their education. Standard-based education is not new to PNG. It was last used in 1999 when the outcome-based education was introduced. It is expected to improve the current alarmingly low levels of literacy in PNG. Minister Kuman said elementary school teachers have begun their training.
As much as we are trying our best to teach our students, we want to make sure we make available the best teaching options that we know, that we will produce students to become more competitive in the global world. And that is the reason why we are saying that we need to change. This reform is good for this country.
Education Secretary Dr. Michael Tapo said with the new curriculum, English will be the language of instruction and teachers will have to improve their English proficiency.
Teachers' level of English is very, very important. Teacher must be competent in teaching English. Now we're going to make sure we pay attention to detail, the way you speak English, the way you structure your English, the way you're able to communicate from elementary prep all the way to grade 12.
Minister Kuman also revealed the government has announced major interventions to the teaching facilities throughout the country. These are programs that will help to ensure our students remain in schools with better facilities, well-trained teachers, and a reasonable student-to-teacher ratio. Delhi Bagu, National Emtv News.
The Papua New Guinea Affected Teachers Group was formed in 2006 after a nationwide teachers' strike. The group comprises of teachers from different provinces of Papua New Guinea who were penalized by the Teaching Service Commission and terminated from their positions following the strike. After being reinstated by the national courts, they now call on Papua New Guinea Teachers Association to perform their duties by helping teachers nationwide.
The Teachers Affected Group was formed in 2006 after teachers staged a nationwide strike. 7 teachers were penalized by the Teaching Service Commission, resulted in the termination. The matter was later put forward by these teachers to the National Court, where the law reinstated all these teachers back to the position. One of these teachers, Mr. Sanangepe, a long-serving teacher and chairman of Affected Teachers Group, stated that teachers nationwide are affected with issues because PNGTA has failed to perform its duties.
The affected teachers are from Bougainville, Manus, Central, Islands, all over. That's why we see that there's something that PNGTA failed to look after our teachers. As a result of that, all of Papua New Guinea, they're making a lot of noises because PNGTA failed to perform their duties.
Mr. Sanangepe stated that PNGTA is supposed to look after teachers' affairs by assisting the Teaching Service Commission with alternate policies with the teachers' employment.
I took Western Island to the National Court already, and the matter is going to be dealt. Final decision will be in February 6, in which I know that we're going to win the case for the teachers in the province. And I appeal to nationwide teachers that PNGTA is supposed to take up this, because TSC can't take up because it's employed by government of the day. PNGTA is there to address this issue. That's why the Teaching Service Commission, we can't blame. We have to blame PNTT because teachers are paying PNTT to serve them and it's not serving them. So Western Islands, we already took the action by issuing the matter before National Court.
Mr. Sanangepe encouraged the PNGTA to consider the teachers' leave fair with the guidance of the Teaching Service Act under Section 130 and to stand for the teachers with the issues they encounter rather than collaborating and abiding with DSC.
I would like to tell all the teachers in Papua New Guinea that laws are there, but now I see that there is a danger that politicians, they appoint their own advisors in each province, like some in Western Islands. Every time a new government goes in, they make new advisors.
Julie Badui Owa, National Emtv News.
Minister for Education Nick Kumant said the issue with teachers' entitlements is a management issue. The minister has directed the Teaching Services Commission, together with respective provincial education officers, to get to the bottom of the problems. He said the fact that only a handful of provinces have the same issues every year means that these are management issues.
At a media conference held yesterday, Mr. Kumant said the concerns of teachers' leave entitlements and airfares are management issues. He said legacy issues were to blame also, with accrued leaves being absorbed into each financial year, a continuous problem. It affects other teachers who want to take their leave. Mr. Kumant clarified that the Department of Education at Waigani doesn't keep any entitlements or funds. The money goes to the provinces. He said seeing that about 3 or 4 provinces who have the same problems every year means that these are management issues. Minister Kumant has therefore directed the Teaching Services Commission, in collaboration with those provinces affected, to get to the bottom of the issue and address them accordingly.
Those provinces that are affected, we just really need to go down and see if we can get to the bottom of this and find out how many teachers are we talking about, what are the problems. The department want to see that the welfare of teachers must be looked after. They are entitled to those leave, and they are entitled to their leave every 2 years.
The process requires that when a teacher is due for leave in a particular year, all leave documents must be submitted to the provincial education system between January and April the previous year. This is so that the leave entitlement budget can be made and be included in the department's money plan in the overall national budget. Secretary for Education Dr. Michael Tapo also explained how the system works in terms of teachers getting access to their entitlements.
That individual teacher that has to make an undertaking to make sure that the level of the leave fare that he or she is entitled to is within what they are required to do. Each of the province will now need to find out how many teachers actually miss out, as Minister has articulated, and then let us know so we can help in facilitating the process.
Minister Kumant assured all teachers who are affected that whatever is due to them, the department will ensure they are paid. He urged all teachers, in the meantime, to return to their respective schools and prepare for the start of the 2015 academic year. Delhi Bagu, National Emtv News.
Students and staff of Sogeri National High School in the Central Province have been using only 2 rainwater tanks for cooking and drinking since the beginning of 2010. They are depending on these tanks because the only water supply to the school is untreated. Sogeri National High School teacher Damien Huafe spoke of the challenges they face in sourcing adequate and safe water supply.
Access to adequate water supply is a big problem in Sogeri National High School. Staff and students have been faced with the challenges of sourcing a good drinking water. Untreated water supply is now a health risk for them.
The treatment system is not that 100% safe for students to drink their water. So there were cases where the school purchased water for drinking.
Water supply to ablution blocks in the boys' dormitories and staff houses is no longer running. Holes in tanks have caused the water to spill over. Meanwhile, they have been using only 2 rainwater tanks for drinking and cooking.
The thing lacking here is the tanks. There's a supply of tanks. We need supply of tanks to cater for rainwater, which would be more, I think, safe for students to drink. And even the staff we also need.
In several instances, the school has had to buy water bottles and containers for drinking water for staff and students. There is no treatment to the water supply which they are still using for washing. Many of them are on the verge of contracting contagious diseases like typhoid and dysentery. However, the school administration is currently implementing a complete renovation of facilities, but it is still a long way from reaching the water supply.
If we finish most of the work that came with the 10 million, the building and those classroom at the back.
This scope of work is designed to upgrade the rundown facilities of the school. Although rehabilitation works are underway, water is a priority need. The administration is appealing to corporate entities, governments and NGO organizations to assist with tanks. Sogari National High School is a school of excellence. It is expecting an intake of 600 students this year. Eric Arupma, National Emtv News.
A landowner group from the Oktedi mine area has called on the government to stop its 33% mine-owning shares to the current beneficiaries. Mahomal Kwaiptan clan chairman Elias Elkina said the current beneficiaries are people from other places who settled around the mine site during exploration in 1981. Mr. Elkina claimed that they are the true landowners and requested the government to hold back its 33% mine-owning shares until the Supreme Court clears their case. A first-ever resource-based trust fund has been set up to provide a sustainable future for Pagera landowners in Enga province. The fund will accept contributions on behalf of all landowners receiving compensation from mining and petroleum projects. It was an initiative of Barrick New Guinea Limited.
The trust fund is available to all mining and petroleum sectors in PNG to contribute on behalf of the landowners. 180 eligible landowners have received their investment certificates and fund identification cards. The main focus in setting up the fund was to secure landowners' investments before the closure of Barrick Limited. Barrick's Commercial Services Manager, Christopher Trainer, said the trust fund was set up to assist Pagera landowners who are recipients of relocation packages. It will give them the opportunity to invest and receive allowance based on a fixed quarterly return. Payments to the landowners are tax-free. However, a 30% tax will be given to the profits made from other investments. Vasinata Yama, National Emtv News.
And now we check out the finance news. The Kina closed unchanged at $0.3835 US in the interbank market, and at Bank South Pacific, your Kina was buying $0.376 US, $0.4552 Australian dollars, $0.3208 euro, and 43.83 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold and copper closed higher, while coffee and cocoa closed the day unchanged. Palm oil closed higher, while crude oil and copper closed lower. And finally, on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 191 points unchanged, the ASX closed at 2 points lower, and the All Ordinaries closed at 3 points lower. Among stories making headlines overseas, a report that shows that the world's wealthiest people are projected to get even richer by 2016. Stay with us for that story and more. Welcome back to the news. Floriculture, or the cultivating and selling of flowers, is a small but lucrative business. In Leh, the business is thriving, attracting mostly women to grow and sell flowers. Flower growers say although it's small, it is gaining popularity all over the country.
The floriculture business might not be as big as other businesses, but if nurtured, it could transform into an industry of its own. And Guaf, a retired public servant, is seeing the benefits of the business. Although it is small, she says the prospect of the business looks promising.
It's not our culture, it's Western culture. So slowly, like 3 years ago, we're not selling cut flowers. It was strange for people to buy flower. But now slowly, the mind is changing. They're seeing the beauty and the value in flowers, so they are buying.
The floriculture market is attracting people, mostly women in the informal sector. Flower growers in Morobe, who have taken on cultivating flowers for markets, are using this initiative as a money-making opportunity.
But our association, it's a new one. Currently we have 14 registered groups now. So we'll be going out, targeting different groups in Morobe. We try to go to districts like Bololo, Makam, and Finchafen. Because we see different districts, they have different potentials. For instance, Finchafen, they can go into orchid farming.
Andor is in a move to help create more opportunities for other women to be involved in farming and creating flower arrangements for business houses, churches, or big events such as weddings and graduations. The floriculture industry has been in Leh for more than 5 years. Colleen Barilai, National Emtv News, Leh.
We now take a look at news making headlines overseas. By 2016, the richest 1% of the world will own more than half of the world's wealth. That's according to a new report by Oxfam, which claims the gap between the rich and poor is widening.
If you've got the money, these are the kinds of things you could splash the cash on. And according to Oxfam, the wealthiest 1% will soon be able to gobble up even more of these symbols of status. The charity claims the uber-rich are getting much richer, leaving the rest of the world's population behind in the global wealth stakes.
It's scary not just for poor people, but for rich people too. That's why it's in the interest of everybody that we reach, if you like, peak inequality as soon as possible and start going back in the other direction.
Oxfam claims its research shows that 1% of people in the world now have a 48% share of global wealth, and it says that share will increase by next year. And the figures reveal that 80% of people, the overwhelming majority, own less than 6% of the planet's riches.
Any of champagne.
Russian billionaire Yevgeny Chichvarkin made his fortune with mobile phones, but he's now the owner of this boutique booze shop in Mayfair. It is no ordinary plonk. This bottle of scotch sells for more than £120,000. He says the rich, though, are not a drag on the poor. Quite the opposite.
I do feel very uncomfortable with the amount of money that I have. I have a lot of business ideas. I wish I had more possibilities and leverage to bring them to life. I have no doubt that if more entrepreneurial people get more possibilities, there will be fewer people living on $1 per day.
The Oxfam research, though, has been widely criticised. By concentrating on the rich, some economists say the report ignores the fact that global poverty in many parts of the world is actually falling. Oxfam is now turning its attention to the World Economic Forum in Davos, where the masters of the universe will meet later this week. It's calling on the world's leaders to act now and narrow what it claims is the growing gulf between rich and poor.
130,000 pages of detailing supposed UFO sightings in the United States have been published online for the very first time. But skeptics say the truth is far from being revealed, accusing the government of attempting a cover-up.
UFO at the 1965 World's Fair? Just one of the cases buried deep in 130,000 pages of documents that John Greenwald just posted online for the very first time.
There's absolutely something out there. The big question mark is, have they come here?
After the infamous alleged alien landing in Roswell in 1947, the U.S. Air Force spent years investigating 12,618 UFO sightings.
The military and the government wants you to believe that there's nothing to this topic.
Most sightings were debunked. That photo at the World's Fair, quote, a processing defect. But 701, including numerous sightings over Washington, D.C. in 1952, remain not fully explained in the papers. Independence Day, based on just a little bit of fact?
They really couldn't, at the end of the day, explain some of these more important cases.
But in 1969, the government announced, case closed.
I believe the documentation proves beyond any shadow of a doubt that there is a cover-up going on.
That's his conclusion. Now you too can read the documents and reach your own.
A sadistic killer who stalked and strangled a teenager she was obsessed with has been released from an Australian jail. Caroline Reed Robertson murdered a 15-year-old girl, Rachel Barber, in 1999 and buried her in a shallow grave.
Well, after almost 15 years inside this women's prison here in Melbourne's West, Caroline Reed Robertson has walked free. The killer was jailed back in 2000 after pleading guilty to murdering 15-year-old Rachel Barber. It was a gruesome murder that shocked the nation. Robertson was 19 years old when she drugged and strangled the teenager at her Paran flat. She then kept Miss Barber's body hidden inside her wardrobe for 2 days before burying her body at her father's farm in Kilmore. Robertson had become acquainted with her victim through babysitting and was extremely envious of the young girl's life. Rachel was pretty, popular and loved to dance. Back in 2000, Robertson was sentenced to 20 years jail with a non-parole period of 14.5 years. Today we saw her walking away from this facility with a male and female. They were all wearing caps as they left in that white vehicle. Well, it's not sure where they were headed. No doubt today will be a very tough day for Rachel Barber's family.
In Hawaii, a homeless woman who said she helped Australian golfer Robert Allenby on the night he claims he was abducted has revealed a dramatically different story to that of the golfer.
Well, Vicky, the main difference is that this homeless woman by the name of Sinead Keane says she stumbled across Robert Allenby bloodied and confused at about 2 o'clock in the morning, just 1 block from the wine bar where he had been drinking. Previously, the 43-year-old pro golfer had said that he was assaulted just outside that wine bar, stuffed in a boot and driven some 10 kilometres away, where he was eventually dumped in a park and then saved by this homeless woman. But let's have a listen to what Sinead Keane had to say, her part at least, in this incident.
He said that he'd been robbed and somebody did this to him and they took his money and his wallet and his phone. And I told him, well, we should call the cops, and he said, and he wanted to get to the hotel. There was 2 people there also that started arguing with him. So I asked him to come with me, and I said, this guy needs help. I didn't want them fighting. So and he trusted me, and we walked across the street and came this way towards the Pancake House.
Sinead Keane also revealed that Robert Allenby at one stage believed that these men had a part in the robbery and wanted to pay them $500 in order to get his wallet and phone back. We haven't been able to put any of these version of events to Allenby today. All we know is that he left the wine bar just before 11 p.m. and Sinead Keane stumbled across him at 2 a.m. So there's about 3 hours there that Honolulu police are no doubt investigating. All they will tell us is that the investigation is still ongoing.
Well, that's a take on our news segment tonight. Our sports segment is coming up next. I'll have all the latest details in soccer, boxing and volleyball. That's coming up after the break.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. The PNG Football Association Just Play program is more than just a football program. Head of OFC Social Responsibility and International Relations, Frank Castillo, said this when opening day 1 of the OFC Just Play Coordinator Workshop at the Ella Beach Hotel today. Football coordinators from all around the country are attending the workshop.
The intention of the program is clear. It is to develop not just football skills, but to target social issues encountered in the community. The program has been successfully implemented in the country under the PNG Football Association. The workshop involving Just Play coordinators from the 9 provinces in the country is basically to enhance their participation in the program and to reach out to the wider community with aims to reduce challenge in social issues.
Put children in a line and they have to wait like 10 minutes looking once a ball. Because if you do that, sport will be boring. So we have designed this program to have children always involved, and we ask them, do you have fun? And we encourage them.
Social problems identified in not only PNG, but other Pacific Island nations are non-communicable diseases like diabetes, obesity and vascular cardio problems. The risk can be reduced with a Just Play program.
You become overweight, you become obese, and you can develop diabetes. And obesity and diabetes kill people.
Gender equality and women empowerment and children with disability are also target issues. United Nations Children's Fund, Union of European Football Association, OSAID, and of course the mother body, FIFA, have seen the importance of the program and have extended their support to branch out to the untapped communities in the Pacific. The week-long workshop will end with a practical session facilitated by OFC Just Play Technical Coordinator Emma Sope. Tere Alex, National Emtv Sports.
NCD Amateur Boxing Association executives have endorsed boxers and officials who will be representing the NCD boxing team at the forthcoming National Championships trials in Goroka. These trials will see the selection of boxers to take part in the Pacific Games come July.
The NCD Amateur Boxing consists of 20 boxers who will take part in the National Championship trials in Goroka at the end of this month. The team includes 4 officials who will be traveling with the team. The boxers will all be playing in their respective weight categories, except that there are 264 kg fighters in Tom Boga and Lennox Kunsi. In the 75 kg women's, Debbie Kaure and Christine Ikupu will have to compete to get a spot in the trials. With only 5 days to go, the team and NCD have been doing intensive training at the Morobe Barracks field and gym. Head coach Mark Keto has been consistent with the performance and fitness level of the boxers, taking the boxers for power, speed and condition during training sessions. The NCD team is prepared and looking forward for the national trials come the 27th to the 30th at the National Sporting Institute in Goroka. Rafaela Kaure, National Emtv Sports.
The Saraga and 6 Mile communities in Port Moresby ended a successful volleyball competition over the weekend. The competition started off late last year as part of the festive season celebrations and was aimed at keeping the community busy and trouble-free.
The Saraga community in the 6 Mile area of Port Moresby is made up of different ethnic groups. One thing common that took the interest of the community is sports. On the newly furnished court came the battle of the best. The competition kicked off with the women's final between Gelea in maroon and Isusol. Gelea's composition was determined on the game of play as they took Isusol. Gelea were the crowd favorites when they bagged 2 sets, adding pressure to the women in grey. Isusol put to test their skills and back into the contention to equalize the sets. Gelea were the one that got away with the trophy after winning the last set. In the men's playoff, Alola in blue took Gigiza. Gigiza were informed but failed on the blocks and gave way to Alola to lead in the first 2 sets. However, technical errors were reported on both sides and the officials made a decision to call off the match and awarded a cup to Alola, while the prize money was evenly distributed. Michael Kandu, a local businessman, supported the competition with 20,000 kina, hoping to keep the community busy during the festive season. He pledged to have this competition running for a 5-year period.
Goroka Eastern Islands, you Golala, you Simbu, you Henga, Wanima people stop. Please stop good. Luarimo Pigni Pamipla. As long as we stop, this is a commitment for 5 years I'm making to sponsor this tournament every Christmas. Thank you.
The community was delighted to involve in the competition, which has brought out the best in them and put it on display. Tere Alex, National Emtv Sports.
And Trukai Sports continues after the break with PNG RFL's announcement of a young lineup for the Cabramatta Nines tournament. Stay with us for that and more.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. Rugby Nines will be making its debut in the Pacific Games and home side PNG are hoping to feature prominently. A 70-man train-on squad has already been announced by the PNG RFL. A final 15 will stand in for the home ground battle. As part of preparations, the Super Rugby Nines competition will commence next month, involving the 4 confederates in the country.
With the inclusion of Rugby Nines into the 28 competing sports in the Pacific Games, PNG is expected to pose the biggest threat to other Pacific Island countries. With Fiji coming strong in the 7s, they will likely apply the same tactics to stamp their marks in the 9s. But the focus remains on the home side, who has lined up trials leading up to July. Following the announcement of the Cabramatta Nines in Sydney at the end of this month is the Super Nines competition involving 4 confederates in the country. The announcement was made today by PNG-RFL Chairman Sandy Saka.
We've been working with the Nines concept of the game. We've been working, identifying talent out there. We won the Commonwealth Games 9, so we have a pool of talent. We are actually sort of the defending premier. We expected to win gold. That puts an additional burden or responsibility on us to, raise our bar. So we've identified a pool of about 70 young players throughout the country, which we've been working with.
The competition is also expected to target potential Digicel Cup players. However, importantly, will be used as a selection platform for the Pacific Games. The competition will be based on the Seniors and Saints system. The top 2 highest-ranking teams from each respective tournament will be automatic entries to the Pacific Balance Fund's 9th competition, slotted for March in Lae. Gaba Gaba in the Central Province will play host to Southern Confederate leg, Mount Hagen for the Islands region, Northern leg in Medain, and teams from New Guinea Islands will converge on Kimbe from March 7 to 8. Tere Alex, National Emtv Sports.
And that wraps up our True Kai Sports segment tonight. But don't go away, I'll have the latest weather forecast for you after these short messages.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
This weather information is brought to you by Tablebirds.
Looking at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in southern region, all centres few showers except Port Moresby, possible evening showers, then chances of morning fog mainly inland. In Momase, Lae and Madang to look forward to a shower or two, fine in other centres. In the New Guinea Islands, fine weather in all centres except Buka, showers. And lastly, in the Highlands region, all centres few showers, then morning fog. Well, that's been the news, sports and weather tonight from all of us here. Thanks for your company. I'm Tokana Hasavi. You take care and stay safe. Good night.